Hello, good morning. It's coming up to 7:15 a.m. on Saturday, the 18th of January, and I'm just about 20 minutes into a 200-kilometre DIY Audax today. The last few days have been very wet, and then suddenly the weather's changed. There's a high pressure system which has resulted in really cold night and quite frosty start this morning. There is actually a freezing fog in some of the fields, a bit icy underfoot, so I'm taking it a little bit gingerly. So at the moment I'm stood on a bridge on the Bath to Bristol cycle path overlooking the River Avon and looking up to Kelston Roundhill in the distance. I quite often use that as a bit of an anchor, a sort of internal reference point to gauge the season changes, because as I tend to set off from Bath at the same time on my Audaxes, I can gauge the lengthening days by, the coming sunrise. And it's coming up to a month after the solstice, and I'm already noticing the later evenings. Well, it's evenings. I'm already noticing the later afternoons, and hopefully in the next few weeks the longer mornings as well. Today I'm riding up one side of the River Severn and back down the Severn Estuary in Gloucestershire, the Forest of Dean. So I'm heading up towards Gloucester. Soon after I'm turning left westwards towards Wales. Before I get to Ross-on-Wye, I'll take another left and start coming south down the Forest of Dean, down the western side of the Severn Estuary, then back across the Severn Bridge. One of the issues I always face in the winter is my Garmin doesn't seem to hold the battery charge very long, so I'm guessing within about half an hour I'll get a battery low signal, and sometimes I'll even get the second battery low signal about half an hour after that, which forces me to stop. So I've got a couple of bus shelters in mind where I might just sit down, give the Garmin 10-minute charge, have a sandwich. I wouldn't normally stop that early in a ride, but needs must. Anyway, on my way into the darkness. It's now around 9 a.m. and as I suspected, I got the Garmin battery low alarm. I've only had one so far, but I'm taking this opportunity in this bus shelter near Lay Hill just to give the Garmin a good charge, have a sandwich, so it's an early breakfast, also charging my light up. So this little USB battery, it's got on-off switch, so I normally charge that whenever I stop. You need to really remember to switch it off, otherwise it'll drain the battery. This one's got much more storage in it. I can't remember how much, but it's quite a bit more. And you can literally just plug it in. It will switch itself on if it needs charging and switch itself off when finished. So I can just put that in the saddlebag, which is what I often do after the sun comes up. That'll charge my phone, my head torch, front light, quite a few items. A high-tech solution to the battery running low in the winter is to actually mount the Garmin on the handlebars, and that way you can get access to the USB input underneath. And I did used to do that, have a cable just running into this bag and have a power pack in there. The trouble is I would sometimes forget that it was plugged in and turn it, and I damaged the plug a couple of times. So this bus shelter is near Lay Hill. In fact, there's one on the opposite side of the road, right opposite each other, which is a little bit typical. You spend ages waiting for a bus shelter to turn up and then two arrive at once. I'm now back on minor roads just south of Gloucester, paralleling the A38. And this is the River Severn. This is a really popular place where people come and see the Severn Boar. Just round the corner is a pub called the Anchor, to give you a reference point. So this particular spot gives you quite a good idea of today's ride. So I'm going up this side of the Severn at Gloucester. I'll be crossing it and I'll be coming back down that way. You can see it's quite hilly over there. That's the Forest of Dean this afternoon, before I head down further south, taking another left over the Severn Bridge back to Bath. It's just gone midday and you can see the weather's turned really nice. I've just turned one of the corners left just north of Gloucester, so I'm now heading westwards on that thin leg towards Ross-on-Wye. I'll be passing Newent soon. In fact, the road comes up to a T-junction, turns right and avoids the high street. I am going to detour in there for a few reasons really. First of all, it's lunchtime and I'll be able to find somewhere to sit there and give my devices a charge and have a meal. Also, the route today is 200.4 kilometres. That's 400 metres over. I mean, that's very, very close. It doesn't leave much margin for error, and I've found from previous rides, if it's that close, you've only got to cut a few corners or have a few cutouts from when you stop the Garmin, and you can be under distance. And that's the last thing I want to do when I get home, is find out I'm about 400 yards or 400 metres short, and then in the past I've ridden around the block a few times. It's just not a very nice way to finish the day. So adding on a little dog leg, plus the fact straight after lunch, when I make the second turn near Ross-on-Wye, it then gets a little bit lumpy, so it'd be a good place to stock up on energy, recharge my batteries and some surplus distance. So here we are at Newent, just about to turn right on the Ross-on-Wye B road for a few miles before taking a left. But I'm actually going to head right across this staggered crossroads. This is my little dog leg down into Newent itself for lunch. I've just turned down a road closed sign. I normally gamble it, as long as there's not a bridge out or anything. You can see what the issue is here. One of the workmen just said, yeah, give it a go, you might get wet feet, so it looks like I'm going to avoid that bit of road being flooded, which I think would probably come up to about my knees. The cars look like they only just got through there. Just hopped over this fence here. Gonna try bypassing it. I've got to just find a way to get out of this field now. I'm now at the other side of the flood, having gone over the fence by that farm building, walked along this field, but it has just taken me about 10 minutes to get through there. There was a big cow pat right in front of the one place that looked possible, so I've been stood in that, beating the brambles away, climbed over a short barbed wire fence about waist height, trod down a path, went back for my bike, came back out, suddenly realised my hat was hanging on one of the brambles. I'd lost that, so I had to go back a third time. Anyway, onwards. It's now 2:15 and I've stopped in the small town of Mitcheldean. It's right in the heart of the Forest of Dean. Just getting a bit of an energy low, so it's also a good chance to give my Garmin a charge as well. I'd rather do that now in the light than towards home when it's getting dark. So got myself a small can of Coke, bacon and lettuce sandwich. Just sit here, one of my favourite spots. And in a minute I'm just going to literally go around this corner and take an immediate right, and the next leg is really scenic. I'll try and film some of that from the handlebars. The leg between Mitcheldean and Sudeley is really spectacular, and then after Sudeley it's quite a steep climb then, up through the Forest of Dean, really all the way up to St Briavels, and then the coastal road, which then goes down, drops down steeply to Chepstow before the Severn Bridge. Today will be my third 200-kilometre ride of the month of January, and I came down with a bit of flu on Christmas night and spent most of Boxing Day and up to about New Year under the weather a little bit, and I guess I probably chose a little bit of an unwise route for my first 200. I think it's around about January the 3rd. And I had flooding on that on the Somerset levels, and there's nowhere I could risk going through that. The gates were across the leg just south of Langport, which is quite often flooded in the winter, and they gate it off. It was literally, it would have been like riding through a river, dangerous. So that cost me about a 5-mile detour, and also I hit the wall a little bit on that one, had to come back over the Mendips in the dark, and I got home literally with minutes to spare actually. Quite a little bit demoralised at the end of that. It's a very, very hard ride, and then the next one felt a lot easier, got my confidence back. Today doesn't seem too bad at all actually. So the plan is to carry on riding 200s until maybe late February, early March, and then up it to 300 kilometres. Then during May and early June, 400 kilometres, before my plans 1200 around about the middle of June. More about that in another video. Long climb now from Sudeley up towards St Briavels, right in the heart of the forest here. Got a fast running brook down on my left, heading into a dark coniferous forest. Right in the heart of the forest now. Isn't it beautiful this time of the year? This is quite a long drag for a few miles, so it's quite nice just to stop and stare for a little bit, take it all in. It's now 20 past 4 and I got my first view from high ground of the River Severn on the western side of today's route. Going to follow this road a few more miles into St Briavels, then it's a B road, drops down to Chepstow. You can see the sun's about to set. I'm a few miles from Chepstow and most of that is downhill, but this view of the Severn from the western side of today's ride gives you a bit of a flavour of the route actually. Been a lovely sunset, so that's looking over the east. Look at this, looking over to the west, really blood red through those trees. So I've been coming down this road from St Briavels, about another mile or so, and a really steep drop down to Chepstow. I'm on the outskirts of Bath. I'm about 2¼ miles from my house. It's been a fantastic day today. Started off very icy and had to take it very carefully until about 9–10 o'clock this morning. And then it's been a gorgeous day since then. The sunset near Chepstow was just absolutely amazing on the road dropping down from St Briavels to Chepstow. That was absolutely stunning. So third 200 of the month. They're gradually getting easier, and hopefully another one possibly before the end of the month. Then I've got the big 60 coming up next month, so we're going up to Blackpool for that. So as usual, thanks very much for watching. Until next time.